We're looking at some guitar amp simulators that are free. We're also talking about resilience in music. What is it all about? And we'll be breaking down different file formats. What should you choose when you're exporting your GarageBand projects? All that and a whole lot more on this week's GarageBand Weekly.
GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly.
Whoa, yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to GarageBand Weekly here on Studio Live today. If it's your first time here, my name is Pete, and this is a show, funnily enough, all about GarageBand, whether you're on your Mac, your PC, your iPhone, your iPod Touch. Where my iPod Touch users at? Yeah? Regardless of how you're using GarageBand, we're going to talk all about it. We're going to go into some news and notes. We're going to talk about our feature topic, which is the one down below here, your different file formats. What do they mean and which one should you choose? And a whole lot more in the show here today. If you're here live, hello, I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a great weekend. If you do have any questions, all you need to do is put the word question at the start of your comment, and that will let us know that you have a question, and we'll be answering and doing some Q&A as we go through the show. But before any of that, why don't we jump in with some news and notes, shall we? And number one bit of news I wanted to share with you, because we've talked about this on the show for the last couple of weeks, is that MixBox CS from IK Multimedia is fixed. It is finally back to where it was before. Now, I know I'm not going to get into the whole controversy of all this. I know a lot of people got very disappointed that MixBox had some issues, and I'll explain all of that right now. So here's the deal. Nope, that's the wrong screen. We need to share my other screen. Professional at work here, folks. We're going to share the... I've got to stop one screen and share another screen. Didn't realize that. I'm sharing two different screens here today. We've got a slightly different setup. Let's share this screen. All right, so MixBox CS here it is on the App Store. Now, the history of this is it's a paid app that has like 70 different plugins. It's from our friends at IK Multimedia. It is a great plugin interface here that you can use on your iPad. And it was really, really cool. And then what they did is they brought out the free version that gives you 8 of those 71 effects for free. The problem was that when they brought out the free version, it made those of us that had the paid version not able to use our paid version anymore. They did the first update that actually brought back the ability to use the paid apps, but then even when you were using it in GarageBand or in Cubasis, it wasn't working. They have now actually done version 1.3.1 here that you can see here. Where's the version number? 1.3.3, apologies, 1.3.3, and they fixed all of the bugs. So it is back, it is working again. And if we jump over here, so I've only realized I can't share two screens at once here in StreamYard. So I forgot about that. I thought I'd be all smart and clever and have my iPad screen and my regular screen at once, but turns out you can't share two screens independently. So we'll come in here and do a quick check on this. So if I type in MixBox, I'm going to find the project that I had. So if you watch the original video where I looked at MixBox, this is the project I created. And the problem was that all of these that had the MixBox on there, these were all grayed out before. So they're now back, and if we click in and tap into one of those, you'll see that it's got all of the different stuff that I added, and all of those presets and settings that I dialed in there are now back. So we can all relax and go back to using MixBox as we did. Look, was it disappointing that for about 2 or 3 weeks, folks couldn't use their previous projects that had MixBox? Yeah. But if you took my advice and just relaxed, had a Christmas cookie, and then waited a couple of weeks for them to get things fixed up, you're now back to exactly where we were before. Is it worthwhile for them to have given this app out for free for folks to test it and have in the meantime bricked it for their paid users? Yeah, look, it's not great. But stuff happens, and they rectified it and made it work for us again. So there you go. That is the saga. It is over now, I hope. But if you have any feedback, if you're still using it and you're still having issues, or if there's anything that I've missed in any of this, please let me know. The other bit of news that I wanted to share with you this week is that I have been recording some guitars, and you'll hear what I've been recording a little bit later here. But if you missed the video, it's over here on the YouTube. And I normally do these sort of videos I normally do these for the Patreons over at patreon.com/PeteJohns, but we did this. I'm just going to find it. Pete Johns record guitars. Hopefully the YouTube search engine will help me find it. I've done far too many videos about recording guitars, but here it is. Here it's see now I'm sharing the wrong screen again. This is going to be a bit of a back and forwards here going on. I'm going to stop that screen and I'm going to share this screen. Well done, Johns. You've really streamlined the process here. All right, we'll add this one back in. So here's the video. If you missed it, we set up and we recorded a bunch of guitars in GarageBand. It was like an hour and a half video. So yeah, settle in. If you want to see the whole behind the scenes process of me and how I go about it and how I record, you can see I had my second camera set up there, so you can see how I plug in and how I set up my guitar and how we get everything done here. A lot of you were there on the live stream, so thank you for those who came along and watched it. But if you missed out at the time, here, look, for those that are here live, I'll share it here and I'll also link it down in the description if you did miss that one. But that is a bit of a precursor to what's going on here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to record, and it's all about this whole thing I want to do in 2022, which is returning to basics, which is recording music, because we do a lot of talking about recording music, and I fear that I've slightly become that which I don't hate, but that which I have warned against, which is someone who does a lot of talking about music, a lot of playing around with apps, a lot of fiddling about and faffing about and pissy-pantsing about, as our friend Jamie Mallender would say, but not a lot of actual recording and creating of music. So we're going to go back to basics and actually record some music. So that's all coming up. Hello to the folks who are here live. Hello to Guzzo of Oz. Hello to Night Fights Day. Hello, SM Borthwick. G'day to Barry and Joe Glenn, the one and only Thomas Christ, Tremor Bear, John Frank. Hello to you and anyone else who I have missed. Ed Z, I think I saw you sneak in there. Question from Joe Glenn. App wider. Do I remove reverb before using wider? This is a good question. Why don't we dive in and actually talk about this right up front here, since the question's been asked, because I do have wider on this new project that I've been working on here. I was using the wider app on one of my guitars. So why don't we jump straight into this? I'm just going to share the screen. So I really didn't think this through. I thought to try and avoid it crashing like it has in the past, I'll put my iPad on my laptop screen and use my second screen here for my like YouTube and visual displays. Thought it would work. Not working so well. So the question is, if you're using the wider app, which I'm using here on this particular guitar, should you remove the reverb? Well, a lot of this sort of stuff comes down to personal preference, in my opinion anyway, and that is whether you want to have the effects before or after or none at all. So when you've got your chain set up here, so here is this guitar. Let's just solo it. At the moment it sounds like this. And the reason I've added wider, if you're not familiar with the wider plugin, it's a free plugin here where you can actually make your track sound wider. It's a stereo widening plugin and it works well. If we turn it off, you'll hear that the guitar is pretty much like right up the guts, right down the middle. Adding wider does this. It's just a cool way, if you've only got one guitar, it's a cool way of getting some width. Now, ideally, you'd record that same guitar part a second time, pan them left and right, and then you get yourself that wall of guitar sound. But this is kind of a cheap workaround. So at the moment here, you'll notice that I do have a little bit of reverb on the Tonebridge plugin. I'm using this Animal Tonebridge plugin. If I was not using anything there at all, it would be not much, yeah? But there's two options that you have here. You can either put your reverb in your chain. So wider doesn't actually create reverb. It creates a bit of separation and it uses some slight delay between the left and the right channel to create a little bit of width. However, it doesn't actually really add any reverb. So the way I would approach this is you got two choices here. When you hit your edit button here, you can add in some track reverb, and you can either put it before or after. So with this reverb afterwards, I'll just make it like super wet, just so that you can sort of hear the difference here. This is with some reverb straight after the wider plugin. So you get a big kind of hall reverb kind of sound there. Or the other option is, I don't know if a lot of folks know this, but if you hit the edit button here, these little three dots on the side here, I can't remember what you call those. If you slide this up and put it above the wider plugin, then your reverb is actually applied before the stereo width. So if we hit done and play this now, so you get a slightly different kind of tone, and you can even try around with some other experimentation stuff, like sliding the reverb all the way up to the top here before your amp sim, and then you get another different and quite interesting tone sometimes. Now, I don't think that sounds particularly good. So personally, I tend to put my reverb at the end of my chain. I do any of the sort of colorization processing, and then reverb is at the end. Because if you think about it, that's the way it works in real life. So your reverb is based around like a hall reverb or like a church reverb or a room reverb. You're not going to hear the room sound before you apply your processing. That kind of doesn't make sense if you think it through in terms of how sound develops. So usually you want your reverb at the end. So that would be the answer to that one. I would not add your reverb first. Put your wider on because you may not even need it. It may sound just fine with just the wider plug-in, because it does create a bit of space. But if you want to add a little bit of additional reverb, no harm, no foul if you wanted to do that by adding it after the fact. But good question. Thank you, Joe, for kicking us off with a kick butt question. I love it. Hello to anyone else who has jumped on in here. Hello, Jade Star. Who else did I see jump on in there? We have myself. No, that's me. I'm like, who's that? No, Desolate Morning. That's who it was. G'day to you. So let's dive in, shall we, to our feature topic. And today I wanted to talk about audio file format. So let's get ourselves set up here and ready to talk about this. So once you've finished your project in GarageBand, you want to export it to share it or to upload it or to master it. But when you come in here and you tap and hold on this one and you hit the share button on a project and you share the song, you get all these options. Now, I wanted to go through all of these options and which ones are the best and for what particular scenario. But if you want the absolute shortcut, use uncompressed WAV. Why? Because this doesn't affect your sound at all. Uncompressed means there's no compression being added to the audio. That means that they're not removing any of the highs or the low ends. It's not trying to reduce the file size. It's giving you everything within your file completely uncompressed. And WAV is what we call the container. So a WAV file is pretty much universally accepted, whether you're exporting and importing into GarageBand or Pro Tools or Reaper or Logic or any other digital audio workstation, Cakewalk, I don't care. They're all pretty much going to support WAV. Now, prior to, I think, version 2.2 of GarageBand, we only had AIF. Now, AIF or AIFF, it's done both ways, is pretty much the same. It's still uncompressed and it's still the same bit rate and bit depth, sampling rate and bit depth, but it just uses a different container. Now, you can use that one, but it's just, there's going to be some applications, some programs, some DAWs, digital audio workstations, that may not accept it. So there are your two options if you're exporting. And what we'll do is we'll export this as a WAV, and while this is exporting, we'll just hit the open in button there. That's going to export this song. We're going to open this and throw it into audio share. And then I'm going to do a compressed version and show you the difference, because the main difference between uncompressed and compressed, there's two. There's quality and there's file size. So whenever you're exporting from GarageBand, and this is actually the same for GarageBand Mac, and it's the same for basically any time you're using audio in any place, is you need to make this decision. Do I want the absolute best quality audio, or do I need to sacrifice some audio quality for file size? Now, if you're releasing it, if you're distributing it, if you're mastering it, if it's going to be your finished product, you always want to use uncompressed. Now, I don't usually say a lot of black and white things. I always have to do this, but you're doing yourself a disservice by compressing your audio. Why? Because if you upload it to YouTube or to SoundCloud or to anywhere else, they're going to recompress it anyway. So they're going to compress your audio. You might as well have the best quality audio going in so that you can actually get the best quality audio coming out at the other end. All right, that's done. What I'm going to do, just to show this, I'm going to hit the audio share button here, and there you go. It's exported this. Now, this tracker only has a little bit here because there's a lot of silence at the end of the track. But if we come in here and we can play this, I've actually just soloed this guitar, which is why it's sounding like that. So there's our track there. Now, if we come in here, you can see down the bottom right here that we can see this is a 2-channel WAV LPCM 24-bit 44.1 kilohertz file. And if we come over to here, you can see how big this is. So you can see there, it's got the audio file there, and this one's 121 megabytes. Why? Because I had all this space at the end, which I probably didn't need there. So ordinarily it would be a lot smaller there. But keep that in mind of what that size was when we come and do this again, because your other options that you have here, if we come right back to this, if we export that one again, we'll tap and hold and we'll hit the share button here and we'll share it as a song. So the other compression options here. These are actually going to compress your audio down. You can see that they've all got different sampling rates here, which is kilobytes or kilobits per second. So you can go everything from 64, which I would not use. That's going to be very low. 128 kilobit, that's like your MP3 quality from like the early 2000s when MP3 first came out. So that's going to give you about a 10:1 file compression ratio, which means that it's going to give you a smaller file size, but it's not going to sound so great. You've got high quality at 192, and then you've got the highest quality at 256. So all of these will just compress different amounts to the point where you're going to get a very small file, a smallish file, and then just a slightly smaller file. Now, Apple Lossless is Apple's proprietary lossless format. I wouldn't recommend using this under pretty much any circumstance because it's basically the same as a WAV or an AIF, but it's proprietary, meaning that it won't be able to be used with something outside of the Apple universe. So if you're in GarageBand and Logic and nothing else, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to use your stuff outside of there, then you can go with the WAV or AIF. So what I want to do, let's just go the lowest possible quality just to show you what not to do. So we'll hit low quality, we'll hit share, we'll once again hit open in, and it's going to export that song. Now this time what it's doing is it's not just taking your raw audio, it's actually getting that audio and compressing it down. Now at 64 kilobits a second, it's going to compress it down to a file size, I would imagine somewhere about a 15th or a 10th or a 20th the size. It really depends on the type of audio in there. So once this is completely exported, we'll be able to jump into audio share and see what size file this is. Now, as I mentioned before, why would you want to use a compressed file? Well, let's say that you wanted to email this file to someone, or let's say you wanted to upload it to somewhere and you're very low on bandwidth. You're out and you're on your mobile device. You've only got your iPhone and you want to be able to export your song and then quickly just throw it to someone on Messenger or on email or on something like that. Well, that's where you may want a smaller file size. If you just want to give someone some audio and the idea, you're like, here's a guitar riff I'm working on. Would you like to work on this project with me? You don't necessarily need the full uncompressed audio. So that's really the only circumstance. If it's going to become a finished product that you're going to put on SoundCloud or you're going to release with DistroKid, always use an uncompressed file, preferably a WAV file. Let's open this one up in your audio share. So there you can see we've got it directly underneath there. So there's our MP3, there's our M4A file, and there's our WAV file. So if we look at the size of these, what is that? So it is 821 kilobytes compared to 121 megabytes. So yeah, look, it's almost the exact same waveform there, but it's being slightly compressed, and it's going to be, well, 812, what's that? Yeah, that's around about a 20th the size. Don't quote me on my maths. And if you were just listening to this and just sort of a casual listener, take a listen. Versus listening to the full uncompressed wave. Now, because it's a distorted guitar, it's probably one of the worst ways to test this because a distorted guitar doesn't really need a whole lot of bit rate and bit depth to sound great. But if you were recording like pristine audio or some vocals or a complete song, you really want the extra size. But remember, it is going to actually take up a lot more space, and somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 20 times if you're using uncompressed WAV files. So if you're just recording and you're just sharing it with someone else so that you can give them an idea, then use your uncompressed. If you are, however, using it with a DistroKid, or whether you're releasing or you're mastering, or you want the best pristine audio, even to go into YouTube or iMovie, then always use WAV. It's about as simple as that. So I hope that helps out, because I do get that question asked a lot from people that say, why do they have to make it so complicated? GarageBand's super simple, and then you go to export and it gives you 7 different options of different file types to export. It really should say something on there. Like in my opinion, I think GarageBand holds your hand with so many other things that wouldn't it make sense that when you come in here and you hit share and you hit song, that it actually gives you sort of some descriptors here, like something that says use uncompressed wave, highest quality audio for production or for mastering or something, low quality, compressed audio, recommended use for email only, or something like that. Like, of all the places where GarageBand holds your hand and doesn't let you make mistakes, the amount of people that I've seen come here and they're like, oh, I'll just go with high quality, and they export that and then they stick that on SoundCloud. Problem is it gets double compressed. So it gets compressed once and then it gets compressed again afterwards, and it's not cool. So use your WAV files. Don't use the Force, but use your WAV files, folks, and you'll be good To go. We will jump in to our next section. We're going to have a wee bit of a rant in a moment. Yes, WAV is definitely the good one, and AIF is fine. They're basically the same. And if AIF works well for you, then keep going with it. As I always say, I'm hesitant to say, definitively, here's the black and white answer, always use WAV. But in my experience, and in my opinion, it is the most universally accepted audio file format. So you're going to get, very rarely have I ever sent a WAV file to someone and they've said, I can't open it, I can't import it, I can't play it. Basically everything since, Windows 3.1 has been able to play a WAV file because it's uncompressed and there's no algorithm that needs to be decoded in order to do that. You're welcome, Joe. I hope that helped you out with your reverb-related question before. Right, I wanted to ask a question now. So if you're here live, feel free to answer in the live chat. And if you're watching on the replay, leave me a comment with your thoughts. So the question is this: what is your definition of resilience when it comes to music and music creation? So for the longest time, my definition has been probably wrong and a little bit damaging, to be honest, because I was sort of brought up and through my work years and through my school years, I was brought up to understand that resilience means pushing through. Resilience means getting it done. It means fighting through and getting to the end, even when things get tough. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Suck it up and deal, princess. All that sort of toxic rubbish that we got told when we were kids. And what I'm learning over time, and I was reading something the other day, and I'm terrible at referencing what I read or giving credit to where I got it from, but it made a statement, and the statement was this: resilience is not how you endure, it's how you recover. So I think we look at resilience a bit wrong in that resilience is the long game. Resilience is the marathon. Resilience is not the sprint. So resilience when it comes to anything, but especially music creation, doesn't mean that, hey, when you started that song, you got to guts it out and you got to get it done at all costs. Even if you're in pain, even if your fingers are bleeding and your brain is broken, you need to just push through and get it done. That, I think, works sometimes, but if you do that every single time, it's going to do a couple of things. You're probably going to burn out. And the reason I only did 4 songs in 2021 is that in 2020, I did experience that. I got to the point where I was forcing myself to create, and forced creativity can sometimes be damaging. And it did get me to the point where I was a little bit tired and really wasn't loving the process anymore. And as soon as you're not loving the process and you're doing something for fun, which music should be, remember, music should always be fun, then I think you need to stop and evaluate and take stock of exactly what you're doing. So what does it mean that resilience is not how you endure, but it's how you recover? Well, it means that on the micro level, you may fail. And as we say a lot around here and around this community, we say, you fail, mistakes make you better, fail harder, like whatever quote you want to do. Everyone starts at zero. All those things that just tell you to keep going. And that little micro failures mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. They're little hurdles you're tripping over, but as long as you get back up. And resilience is actually about the recovery. It's the getting back up as opposed to the continuing to push through when you're actually in trouble. So I just wanted to put that out there because for 2022, especially with everything else going on in the world and into the future, I think it's really important that we all give ourselves a break. Like if we've put on 10 kilos over the last 2 years, well, guess what? You know what? You need, your body's done well to get through what we've been doing here. And it's the same with your music. If you've only created 1 song or 2 songs or 4 songs and you really wish you'd created 20 songs, well, that's cool. But it's how you rebound from that. It's how you recover. It's how you come back and make sure that you're doing the right thing. So my 2022 plan is to go back to basics. So the guitar song that you're going to hear and that you heard before that I did the other day, that is because I wanted to go back to my roots. I wanted to go back to music that is 2 guitars, a bass, drums, and vocals, and just belt it out and just go back to the roots of what I loved and what got me into this in the first place. Because yeah, a 64 track project with all the effects and all the plugins and all the bells and whistles is fine. But if it's giving you a headache, making you feel bad at the end of the day, it's probably not for you. And that's kind of where I was getting to. So hopefully that helps some folks out. And even if it doesn't, hopefully it just gives you a thought starter to go, yeah, actually, maybe I do need to have a think about how I approach things and what I actually do. Tremor Bear says, yep, suck it up, stick it out. They're the things that I was told in the past, to suck it up and stick it out. And the weird thing is, and this is going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but that's what the rants are all about, yeah. One of the things that I'm quite I'm baffled by at the moment is that and again, we're not to get political because I don't actually care what side of the political fence you sit on. I sit right in the middle. That's why I've always got a sore bum because I'm always sitting on too many fences. But regardless of what side you're on, none of our leaders are actually leading by showing any sort of ability to show weakness. And people may say, no, leaders can't show weakness, but they're not showing any vulnerability. They're not showing the ability to step away and the ability to say, hey, we got that wrong. We made a mistake there. And look, I know it's politics. I know they've got to be all this huffy puffy BS. But isn't that, like in the rest of life, we're being told to make sure you share your emotions, don't bottle it up. It's okay to suffer from mental health and to suffer from anxiety and depression. Just get the help you need. Yet the people that should be leading by example are doing the exact opposite of that. They're saying, oh, no, nothing's wrong here, nothing to see here, everything's fine. And even when they've got like 9 pieces of bad news to put out there, they don't go, folks, things are tough. We didn't think it would be this way. We've made some mistakes in the past. We're hoping we can do better. They go, oh, no, this organisation, this thing, we're doing so well. And look, it's not just governments. It's businesses as well. I've probably been guilty of it as well, just saying, oh, no, everything's fine, nothing to see here, when I've just made a giant blunder. So I think we need a little bit more ability to look inside and go, you know what? Yeah, it's okay to mess up sometimes. And admitting it is not a show of weakness. It's actually a show of strength. Admitting your mistakes, I think, is the biggest show of strength you can have. And the people that show the most humility are the people that I respect the most. But maybe that's me, and maybe you're different. I'm almost positive people are different. Resilient to John Franks is move with the changes to a result. Yeah, and that's the other thing. To be willing to move, to be willing to change and do things differently, and not just be stuck in the one way. Because again, that old quote that was attributed to Einstein that I don't think Einstein ever said, which is that the definition of insanity is to do something the same way and expect a different result. I think that's really relevant as well when it comes to music, is if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's like your golf swing. If you're practicing a golf swing, but the golf swing is crap, you're always going to be a crap golfer. If you learn, however, or change your style, or speak to someone that knows, or get some help or guidance or coaching, you might actually get better. Go figure. It is okay to walk away. Exactly. It's 100% okay. It's not the micro failures or the micro giving up doesn't mean that you're giving up on the macro level. It just means that one thing that you were doing at that one time is maybe not the right thing to do. And sometimes you can feel it in your gut or your heart or your head or wherever you feel it. It's fine. Foam at the mouth and fall over backwards. There you go. Thomas says, even though I recorded a bunch of songs and albums, there are several I can think of that were started and never completed because they weren't going anywhere. And that's fine too. Look, I know I've definitely been guilty of this in the past, because my mantra here is create, record, release. So I've been saying for the longest time, create, record, and make sure you finish your songs and get them out there. And I think that's really important that you do that sometimes. But that doesn't mean that every single song you start needs to be finished. It just means you need to finish some. If you're starting and only getting halfway through 20 songs in a row, then maybe you do need to completely rethink this whole music caper. But if you start 2 or 3 songs and they're just not going anywhere and you don't actually finish them, and then you do a 4th song and you finish it and you're happy with it, then I think that's cool. And I think that there's songs that I've done that are probably never going to get finished, and that's okay. They can be on that someday maybe pile for a while. SM Borthwick says, interestingly, my early plan for 2022 is to finish the songs I didn't quite get finished in 2021. That's recovery of a sort for me. And that's cool. Like, that's, again, if you've assessed that and you've gone, hey, there's some songs there from 2021 that I didn't finish that I would like to, and that's going to make me feel better, and that's going to make me feel fulfilled, then absolutely. That's also a good plan. I agree. Yeah, thank you, John Frank. I think it's something that we don't talk about enough. The resilience side, the mental health side, because it's like everything in life. It's probably 50% physical, 50% mental. When it comes to doing anything, top athletes will tell you that mental preparedness is as important, if not sometimes more important, than physical preparedness. You can be the absolute best athlete in the world with all the training and all the natural talent, but if you're not mentally prepared to handle the competition, then you can crumble. And we've seen that many, many times in sport before. And it's the same in music. Like, too many musicians, like the whole 27 saga of musicians that get to a point where they're just so overwhelmed mentally, despite being the most talented musicians in the world, they're so overwhelmed that they can't go on. It's sad. A few songs we need to revisit, so it's a plan. When I get irritated, I shout at. Well, there's the other thing. If you've got a barrier around that you can shout at, well, then that's going to work too. Yeah, the suck it up and just do it is alpha male BS. Resilience is the ability to go through a situation no matter if you fall down and have to get up again or walk away for a while, in my humble opinion. Yeah, and it is. And I think that's what I was ranting on about, the sort of, the corporate leaders that I've served under and our government leaders, is that it's still a lot of the alpha BS. Like, there's not a lot of understanding and compassion when it comes to that, because it's all about, no, here's our job and we just got to get it done. And yeah, you see it all the time, and it's toxic and it's weird, because with one hand they'll say, oh, here's all these mental health programs and here's how you look after yourself, and they're not leading by example. And I found that always baffling in the corporate world, that we'd have these, well, I can't remember what they were called, workplace whatever, safety programs and all these things, and yet you look above you and none of them are heeding any of the things that they're talking about. It's all lip service. So I want 2022 to be the non-lip service year, yeah? Let's see what we can do. Right. But yeah, exactly right. Mark says, I'm having a bit of trouble right now. Seasonal depression is a bitch, but I know I'll make it through in the end. Yeah. And I know Brad Example said the other day that he's in a bit of a rut at the moment. I admitted the other day that I was in a bit of a rut. I'm trying to sort of push my way out of it by doing some different things, and it's going to happen to everyone. So you are not alone. But if you're watching on the replay, do let me know your thoughts. That went on a little bit longer than I had thought it would, but I think it's an important topic and one that is not discussed enough. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about it here today. Should we get on and do some garage banding? I think we're overdue for some music stuff, yeah? And we're going to jive. I always say that. Instead of dive, I say jive. We're going to jive on in here, hepcats. and get some stuff done here in GarageBand. So, the GarageBand guitar amp simulators are very, very cool. They're actually underrated in terms of their quality. However, there are some other free options that you can use to get guitar sounds in GarageBand, and that's what we're going to go through right now. So, I've recorded this track, and I've got two guitars here, and I just used the standard power chord. So let's take a listen to this. I did a rhythm guitar, which sounds a little bit like this. And I recorded a lead guitar part to go along with this, which sounds like this. And we're going to have to redo the thing. So even though it's really inconvenient to have that on the other screen, it still didn't even work. Go figure. Jiving through January is a solid option, SM Borthwick. I concur. I agree wholeheartedly. All right, let's get this thing back to the right size. I'm trying everything here. I think I need to move on from Reflector. I've given them more than a fair chance, I think, to work, and I think I need to find just a different screen sharing platform that maybe might work better, because it just keeps failing. And I've updated to the latest version. I've tried all the different settings. I've done everything. Or maybe I should actually, raise a ticket and give them an actual chance to do that. All right, let's jump back into this, and this is our lead guitar part. Oh, it's not plugged in. Let's plug it back in. Plug it in and hope it doesn't go away. All right, where's your monitoring button, GarageBand? Bring it on. There we go. It sounds like this. Now, there's nothing wrong with those guitar tones, and I could, of course, come in here to my amp sim and change these up, so you can select any of your different amps here in GarageBand, and there's plenty of videos here on the channel all about the GarageBand amp sims. But what if you want a little bit more flexibility with your guitars, but you want to spend $0 and £0 and €0? Well, there's an easy way to do this, and that is to use two different apps. The first one is called the Crunck V2 amp from Nembrini, and the second one is Tonebridge. They're both available on the App Store to download for free. So let's get started with these. Now, if you've recorded using the guitar amp, let's just take a step back. So the way to record with the guitar amp is to hit your plus button, go into the amp here, you can go more sounds, and you can select which amp you want to do. I'm using the power chord here in the distorted amp, and then you hit your record button and you record in your track. Now that puts it onto a guitar amp track like this one, which are just like these. These guitar amp tracks have a couple of things that are good, which is that you can jump in here to the amp and you can set all of your different amp settings here. So you can change your EQ, your reverb, your tremolo, your presence, your master, everything. You can adjust your different pedals here. So you can add different pedals or stomp boxes from all of this collection. There's quite a few there that you can actually add in. So you can add in some funk or you can do whatever you want there. So it's actually pretty cool, but the limitation is you only get, if you come in here to your plugins, you only get one additional plugin. So we've got the reverb here and we can get rid of that, but we've only got one plugin slot. Now you may be aware that if you use a regular audio track, you get multiple plugin slots, and that's actually going to help us out with this method. So here's the first thing we need to do. We need to create a standard audio track to put these into. So to do that, we hit the plus button here, and instead of amp, we go to audio recorder. Now, as we probably know, if you've used this before, the way to get your clean sound is instead of going into vocals or guitar, you go into fun and you hit clean and you get a completely clean audio track. Now, the first thing that we want to do here is move these guitars into these audio tracks. So what we can do, if we create a second one here, we can duplicate that out and we can tap outside of here and drag a big bucket over this, tap again, and then just drag these two suckers. Actually, they won't drag down. We'll undo that. They have to be copied. I'm leading you astray. We need to copy them, and then we need to come down, make sure that we've lined up our playhead right at the start of the same spot. So to make sure that it goes into the same spot here, tap there and hit the paste button, and oh, it hasn't worked. So you love it when you're doing a live presentation and things don't work the way you think. Do we have to copy these one at a time? Perhaps we have to do them one at a time. I think I might have led us astray there. Like I was saying, what we need to do is copy these one at a time by tapping on here, tapping again, hitting the copy button, lining up our playhead, selecting our first track here, like so, and pasting it on in by selecting the track, hitting it there, and hitting paste. And then we can do the same with our second track here. We can just select it by selecting the whole lot, including any additional sections that you've got. Probably should have zoomed in before I did this. There you go. There they both are. We're going to tap on there, tap on copy, come back to the start of our track, tap it in there, and come in here and paste it. So all we've done here is moved these two tracks from guitar amp sim tracks into audio recorder tracks. Now, if we play these together now, they're going to sound a little bit soft and sad, aren't they? They're going to sound like this. Now that sounds like me on my electric guitar before I bought my first amp. Anyone else buy a guitar without an amp because they couldn't afford the amp and then they had to save up to buy an amp and they just played their electric guitar without any amplification? Yeah, that's me. So that's your standard guitar sound. So let's add in Tonebridge, shall we, to one of these guitars. Now, I'm going to use Tonebridge with the lead guitar sound, I think, because the cool thing about Tonebridge is we can add different sounds based on different artists we may like. So we're going to grab this lead guitar sound. It's this one here. And because this song's a bit of a grungy kind of sound, I think we need a bit of a Pearl Jam kind of tone here. So to add Tonebridge, we come in here to our plugins and EQ, we hit the edit button, and then we hit one of these plus buttons here. We come over to audio unit extensions, we scroll on down to Tonebridge over here on the right-hand side. There it is. So if you don't have this already, just download it from the App Store for free. And then when we tap on this one, check this out. We've already got it dialed in here to the last tone that I selected, which was Animal by Pearl Jam. Let's try a different tone here, shall we? What if we went with, say, a Nirvana tone on this one? So if we type in Nirvana, it's going to search that, and it's going to find a whole lot of different Nirvana songs. Now, why don't we go with In Bloom? That's one of my favorite Nirvana songs, and this could be a cool effect to play. So we can have the effect up there. We can come back to the start of our track, and now if we play it, pretty cool, yeah? So we could do any different band that we like here. Say we wanted to, instead of Nirvana, we wanted to go with a bit more of a Green Day kind of tone. And you can actually go into the Tonebridge app and edit it and create your own tones and do a whole bunch of cool stuff there as well. It's pretty cool. So if we go with something like Basket Case from Green Day, and I love the artwork on these pedals, by the way. It looks so cool that you have the actual artwork from the album that you're using. So let's take a listen to this Basket Case tone. And you can see there that you can adjust the effect there, you can adjust the volume, you can do a bunch of cool things there. Why don't we go back to this original Pearl Jam tone that I was using, because I liked this tone from Animal. So Pearl Jam, and yeah, this is a bit of a game changer for a lot of folks. When they first discover this, you'll probably lose yourself a couple of days just playing around with different tones. So here's the tone from the song Animal by Pearl Jam. So I think that's got the right amount of sort of presence and sound that we want to go with there. And we'll do a restart of the thing again because whoosh, because it wouldn't want to make life simple for me, would it? Yeah, moving on from Reflector. I'm sorry, Reflector. You are too unreliable. By the way, Reflector is the app that I use to share my screen here on the iPad, and it keeps just doing that where it just cuts out. And I've tried it on Mac, I've tried it on PC, I've tried it on both my Macs in fact now, and it just does not do any different. It keeps shutting down on me, which is no fun. No bueno at all, folks. No bueno. Or maybe it's time to finally take the plunge and use a HDMI capture card, which Jade has been telling me to do for a very long time. Darren said he had a guitar without an amp. I know, it was something about it. Like you wanted to get the guitar first, even if you couldn't afford the amp. So totally did that. All right, so there is the sound. Okay, we're going to go with that for our lead guitar tone there. Why don't we take our attention over here to our rhythm, because now if we bring the lead and the rhythm together, our rhythm's going to sound pretty out of place. So we need a nice crunchy tone here on this guitar. So we could use Tonebridge again, or we could use the other option I'm going to show here, which is the Nembrini Crunck V2. So again, we go over here to our audio unit extensions. We scroll on down, and we were going to throw the Nembrini, the NA Crunck V2 on here. And we tap on this one. It's going to give us the thing to register. I have already done that, but I don't know why it keeps coming up. And then from here, your default tone is going to sound a little something like this. And you can see here, you've got the ability to manually control gain, bass, mids, trebles, your master volume, your presence, and your output. So it's a simple approach here, but it's very effective. And what we can do is if we wanted to go in here, you can go to your factory presets. So if you tap on this default button here, you can go factory presets. Say we wanted more of a clean tone, we can go with something like this. And then if we wanted to go with a more of a crunchy tone, and the A and the B is just basically more crunchy. So you can see crunch A goes like that. And if we came in here and go to crunch B, it just kind of turns it up to 11 a little bit more. So you get this kind of tone. Pretty cool, yeah. And you can, of course, go all the way up to your lead tones, which give you a little bit more of a treble-heavy lead tone. Probably a bit too much for this. So we're going to dial this one back to the crunch. So the crunch A, and then let's bring these two together and see if we can balance these suckers out and get ourselves some guitar tones going on here. Pretty cool. So from here, we can add a whole bunch of more effects. And here's the cool thing. Now that we've used the Nembrini Crunck and Tonebridge on these ones, we've now got ourselves some extra slots here. So you can usually get rid of that effect EQ and bring your amp up to here. But what you can do is you can add, say, a reverb after the fact. So if you wanted to add in any sort of reverb effects, even just a stock track reverb, you could put that on there. You could come in here and put things ahead of the amp as well. So if we wanted to, say, come in here and put, say, a phaser or a flanger on here, we could add a flanger plugin and then drag it up here, because you can change the order here in your plugins. You can hit the edit button and you can change the order. So you can put a flanger in there before the amp and then a reverb unit afterwards, and you can really customize your tone here to make it really what you want. Let's just see what that came out like. I don't hate that. In fact, it's put the flanger after, so we'll just move that flanger again there to put it before and see if that makes a difference. Pretty cool, yeah. So you've got pretty good control over this, and you've got a bunch of plug-in slots, as opposed to your guitars, where if you use the amp sim, you've only got the one slot. So there you go. A couple of options for you there. The Nembrini Crunck V2, a very cool free guitar amp sim, and of course Tonebridge, which gives you the power of pretty much any guitar tone in the world. I hope you dig on those ones. And I know I've showed this stuff before, by the way. And I know for many folks who watch this show, if you're here and you're like, I've seen all 108 episodes of GarageBand Weekly, Pete, and you've shown Tonebridge 3 times and Crunck 2 times already before. The answer is yeah, I know. And I'm sorry. I know it gets repetitive sometimes. And hopefully I give you a little tweak. And this is the thing. Sometimes you'll be watching and there'll be one little thing you pick up that you hadn't picked up before. And hopefully it's just fun and entertaining to hear some music and to have a bit of a chat and a yarn. If you do have any questions, please go ahead and throw question in front of your comment. And if you're watching on the replay, I get a lot of folks who are like, oh, I can't catch the show live and I've got a question and I wanted to ask you. Guess what? There is a comment section down below. And despite the fact that in 2022 it's becoming more and more challenging because I get something like 50 to 100 comments a day across the channel, I still do reply to each and every one of them. Even if it's just a heart and a thumbs up and a you rock, then I do try and reply to everything. And if you have more in-depth questions, there's a couple of options. In fact, I'm going to show you what those options are right now. We're going to, I'll just remove that from the stream right now and we'll share my screen over here, because what you want to do is you want to jump over to this website here, to studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand, because I've gone to a lot of effort here to try and answer all of your GarageBand questions. So the GarageBand iOS FAQ is there at studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand. You can grab the GarageBand Beginner's Guide if you're just starting out for $10 bucks, or you can come in here. These are all my starting out with GarageBand playlists. So if you go through all of these and you click on, say, the Essentials playlist here, that's going to open up my Essentials playlist, which has 35 videos that take you through all of the essential stuff, all of the basics of connecting up your gear, of recording, of mixing, of mastering, of exporting and sharing in GarageBand. We've also got a bunch of other playlists there, and then the FAQ here that takes you through all of the different things that you need to know about GarageBand, and you can even search through those to find out how things work. I actually had a question from someone who was setting up, and I'll throw this out here actually, because why not? If anyone has any ideas or has done this before. So I've got a viewer who has an audio interface with a USB and with MIDI, and he's using that with an iPad and with a Mac with Logic. But he wants a way to use the same audio interface and MIDI keyboard with both the iPad and with the Mac. Now, the only way I know to do this is the sort of setup I have, where you have an audio interface on your Mac, and then you send the audio out, on your iPad, and then you plug into that, and then you send the audio from your stereo output of your iPad's audio interface into a stereo input on your Mac, which is what I do with this. I've got a mixer here, and I send my output from my audio interface to my mixer, and then that's what I use there. I can't think of a way. I don't think there's a way to share the MIDI, to share one interface with MIDI and to share the audio and MIDI from that interface across a Mac or a desktop PC or anything and a mobile device at the same time. I think there's probably switches that you could do, or you could set up like a switch box to go between the two, but via USB. But I don't think there's a way. There's no way to split out a USB signal and send the same USB. So say you were playing on the MIDI keyboard and it was plugged in, to send that same MIDI to both the iPad and the Mac at the same time, or be able to just switch between the two seamlessly. If anyone has a solution on that, please let me know. Please let me know in the comments here, or email me, pete@studiolivetoday.com, because I've not quite worked it out yet. Question from Mark. Where's the bird? I know. Where's Duncan? Where's Duncan? The what do we call him? Donuts? Duncan Donuts? I know. He had many names. Yeah, I do miss the bird. He's in the cupboard. I've been doing a few cleanup projects lately around here, so a lot of the extra stuff has gone away, including like the Christmas tree from there and a bunch of other stuff. So yes, I do need to get Duncan and a bit more decoration. I need some decoration up around here, don't you think? I need like something on the walls. Problem is, like most of you, this is my bedroom studio, so it's a little bit hard to keep things looking neutral, but also looking kind of epic and musical at the same time. And there you go. You can also go there, studiolivetoday.com/courses, if you want to check out the GarageBand Beginner's Guide. Answer is connect all to a powered USB hub. Then you can unplug from the Mac and plug into the iPad. Yeah, I think that's literally the only way I can think of to do it too. I don't think you could have them both at the same time. And I'm thinking if you had you could have a hub into a hub and then use the Tendacs or the Atolas that have the buttons. You could potentially use that to just turn a button on. But I don't think you could have both going at the same time. I think you have to do one or the other. Jimmy Fox says, I only have iPhone and Windows on my computer. Yeah, maybe it's too hot for Duncan. Yeah, it probably is too hot for Duncan. The water would evaporate from Duncan's drinking cup. That would be the problem, I think, there. All right, we're going to have a quick drink, and then what have we got left to go? We've only got one thing to go. We might actually get out early today, or finish on time. Mark says that's what I do, both at the same time, work. Yeah, I don't think there's a way that it's going to work, because I think the very nature of USB is that it's just a two-way thing. There's no way to split it off and send it somewhere else. I had the same problem with HDMI. I wanted to send HDMI to my PlayStation, to both my TV and a separate monitor, because when the kids were little, they'd want to watch Teletubbies or whatever, and I'd want to play PlayStation. So I had a separate monitor off to the side that I could unplug and replug my HDMI into that. So I ended up having to get a splitter, but only have one plugged in at a time, because there's no way to split out a digital signal into two different ones. There probably is, but it would you'd have to get some sort of high-end gear. I reckon that the gear you'd need to get would be too costly. Yeah, one more thing. Hello, Mike and Dawn, Janice. I hope you are doing well, my friends. All right, let's go back. We'll stop that screen and we'll share this screen. I need a better screen option. Need a better screen sharing option, folks. All right, so here is what we want to bring up here. Let's just I'll just get rid of all this stuff, and I'll go back to I'll use these guitars. I'll get rid of these guitars. Whoop, wrong. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not it. Oh, no, I'm undoing. Tap and hold and redo. Oh, did you know that you can tap and hold your undo and redo if you do something and then you want to redo it? All right, there we go. So we'll keep the vocals out of there. We'll drag our guitars up here. And we've got these 4 tracks. All right. All right, that's what we'll use for this one. So I'm just going to delete out this, because we're going to talk FX here today. I'm going to show you everything you want to know about FX, but we're afraid to ask. Okay. If you've ever wondered what this button here, the FX button, does in GarageBand, we're going to find out. So, everything you wanted to know about GarageBand's FX, and we're afraid to ask. Now, the FX function here applies to your entire project, which means that a lot of folks don't use it much because it's not particularly handy, but there is a way to actually use it with one individual track, and hang around to the end because I'm going to show you how to do that. But let's take a look at some of the different effects that we have in here. Now, whether you're on the iPhone or the iPad, it'll work the same way, but when we're playing our track here, if we tap on some of these different effects, you'll see the different ones we have. So we have a filter down here in the bottom left, which could be pretty cool for all sorts of different music. And then you've got a whole bunch of other things here. You've got the ability to use your reverse and your stops and your DJ scratches here. I actually show all of these. I actually like the repeater. This is one of my favorites. And look, a lot of these are a little bit more for electronic music than they are for this sort of music. But they're cool to play around with. Now, to record in FX, all you need to do is hit the record button here, and we can tap on one of these. And that's kind of one of my favorite ways to use this, because GarageBand doesn't have an auto filter. So it doesn't have the ability to automate something like a filter effect or an EQ effect. So if you wanted to get that kind of AM radio going into more of a sort of full sound, you can use that. So all I did there was start with the filter in the top right and drag it down and then release it as we got to here. And you've got the resonance and the cutoff there that you can play around with. You can also change up these. So if you tap on the top there, you can change them to different ones. And you've got 2 different ones here. You can put anything you like on both of those. So it's a pretty powerful way to actually get some effects here. So let's take a listen to this back now with that effects recorded. So that's cool, yeah, but what if we only wanted that effects to be recorded onto, say, our 2 guitar tracks, or even just one of our guitar tracks? Well, there's a way that we can do that, and it's our old friend Merge. So what we've done here is we've already got that there. We're going to select these two tracks. We're going to select our two guitar tracks here, and we're going to merge these two tracks with our FX track, and you'll see exactly how this works. So at the moment with all of this, if we just exported it, we'd get that effect across all four of these tracks, and that's not what we want. We want the bass and the drums to come in and only be the guitars that do that sort of filter in. So here's how we do it. We tap on one of these, we tap again, and we hit the merge button here. We're then going to select the two tracks that we want to use here and the effects track. That's the key thing. Make sure you add that effects track to there. Hit your merge button. It creates a backup of your project, and then it merges together the tracks that you've selected with the FX track. But it's not going to merge your drums and your bass. They're going to be unaffected, but it is going to merge these guitar tracks in. Now I've realized that I didn't cut off the track, so it's going to merge a whole bunch of blank space. So that was a bit of a mistake, but we'll just wait while this happens. So there you go. It's merged it, it's normalized it, and there it goes. So now you can see there the FX track's been disabled, and that's fine because we don't actually need it on anymore because that FX has been baked into these guitars. Let's take a listen. Pretty cool, yeah? So this guitar track now has the effects baked in there. We can delete these. We can use this effects track for something different. If we wanted to put some effects on our drums or our bass, we can do that. But if we bring our drums and bass back into this with our effects disabled, take a listen to it now. Pretty darn cool. Now, the one other very cool thing you can do with your effects, apart from recording on your whole track, on your whole project, and recording individual tracks and baking it in, is our old friend, the EQ. So if we tap on the FX and we go in here and we turn the effects back on, we've got a visual EQ here. So in your visual EQ, what you can do is you can actually control the EQ of your entire project. So if you wanted to just add a little bit of EQ, say you've got a whole project and it's not got enough bass and you just want to give a little bass boost to your whole track, well, you can throw the EQ on here and then just turn up your bass, and then it's going to actually add bass to your entire track like this. The other thing you can do is adjust your whole volume here. So you can see I've actually reduced this by 5 dB. If I wanted this to be louder, I can actually turn up the whole project. Now that sounds terrible because it's kicked in the auto normalization and auto limiting there. But if I've got my whole track too loud, a cool thing to do here is to bring it all down like that. And then you can get a nice balanced track without having to go through and adjust every single one. So a quick look at all the things you can do with FX. I do go through all of the different FX in a different video, which I've linked down below. So if you want to learn what each one of these does and how to use them, then you can check that one out, as well as these additional buttons that you can see here, because there's a whole lot more to go into. But that is your quick fire crash course into the world of FX here in GarageBand. And that is it. See, you can tell when I'm recording a video to then use as a video that's going to be a standalone video, right? Because I always make it sound like it's about to go. You can always hear the point where it goes, da-na. Yeah, the FX track, good for more than just the master volume hack. Totally, you can actually use it quite well. And I think you've already had an answer, Jimmy, but unfortunately, GarageBand is only for your Mac or your iOS device. It is not available for your PC, and probably never will be because it's made by Apple. There are alternatives. If you're looking for alternatives to GarageBand, there's nothing that's quite as simple. You can use things like Audacity. I used to use Reaper, and I quite like the Reaper, DAW. The other one that a lot of folks are using these days is actually Cakewalk by Bandlab. So Bandlab bought out the whole Cakewalk dealie, and you can go and check out, where I would recommend you go is to Creative Source channel. So if you go to Creative Source and type Cakewalk, that is my buddy Mike. So Creative Source Cakewalk into your YouTube search engines, and then you'll get Mike there, and he's got a whole bunch. This one here, the Cakewalk by Bandlab, he's got 38 videos there, but start with this one, how to use Cakewalk by Bandlab, getting started. So if you're on a PC and you want to use something that is not quite GarageBand, but pretty good, then go and check out Mike at Creative Source. And while you're there, if you're into your GarageBand, you know where you need to go. You need to go to this fellow. You need to go to the GarageBand Guide and check out what Patrick's got going on over there. His top iOS music production apps of 2021 is definitely something that you want to have a look at. Oh, look, there's a spoiler there. Synthmaster 2 is maybe in the list. So go and check that one out as well. Thank you all for being here. If you do want to find out more about GarageBand, as I mentioned before, studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand is where you want to go. That's my FAQ. You can check out all of the questions there. Or if you have your own question about anything else or any other comments that you want to make, just drop them down here into the comments section below, and I would be happy to answer any other questions that you have. Going to be a couple of days off for me here now, folks, so you'll get a couple of pre-records there. Yeah, no accents, don't worry, Joe. You're going to get a couple of pre-recorded videos, and then we're going to be back. We're kicking back into the Creator Town Hall, which will be on Thursday night or Thursday morning, depending where you are in the world. And then, of course, we're setting up for another big weekend with some of your music live and the happy hour, and, of course, GarageBand Weekly. So thanks, everyone, for all of your support. As we say at the end of every show, please be kind to yourself, be kind to others, keep creating, and I'll see you next time on this very show, GarageBand Weekly. See ya.
GarageBand, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand, GarageBand Weekly.
Bye for now.
Need an answer to